Alright, in today's video, I'm basically going to be going over the structure text speed example we did yesterday. If you did not see that video, you can see it in the show notes below. I'll have it linked. In that instance, though, I did bring up in that video that we did not have any kind of protection as far as when the speed, increased or decreased over a certain limit. So that's what I want to do. I want to come back and kind of revisit that to kind of show you how that's written as well. So without further ado, we'll just to kind of go over what we did. And again, if you didn't see the last video, this is it's a fully emulated system. So we're using the RSLogix Emulate 5000 chassis. I am still online with it, and so just to kind of give you the illustration of where we're at, the structure text drive speed control is the name of the processor. It's version 20.15, and we're in slot 1. I put everything under a main task of 75 milliseconds of periodic task. I'll link the main routine to the structure text example that we're doing, and we'll go ahead and start our structure text programming. So this would be, again, I want to come back and put some notes and stuff for what we did the last video as well. So if speed increase, not increase, increase, my typing's a little off today apparently, so sorry about that. If the increase or decrease are pressed, then index in that direction. So I like to separate that, to kind of show you what is what. In this instance, what I want to show, I want to highlight the fact of like a speed limitation. So if the system, like say for instance, we're going to use the same speed reference. So if we'll paste that in there, that's why I'm kind of bad about copy and pasting. And I'll come back and explain this in like a little detail in just a second. You'll probably actually see exactly what I'm doing. Especially if you've seen the last video, you would. Okay, so basically, if the speed reference is less than 0, then make it a 0. If the speed limit, if it's greater than 10, then we're going to take it and max them out at 10. So this is what I'm saying is, okay, so in the last video what we ran into is when we press the increase button or the decrease button, it well exceeded, it wouldn't stop at 0, or it would not stop at a high limit or whatever. All this is doing right here is saying, okay, well, if the speed reference is less than 0, then we need to index to 0. If the speed reference is greater than or equal to 10, then we need to index to 10. So we're putting low limits and high limits in here. So, and I'll go ahead and put some comments on right there. So if the speed is less than 0, and move a 0 to the speed reference. And now I'll basically copy this and reword it right here. Speed limit is greater than 10, then move a 10 into the speed reference. Okay. So let's see how that works now. Granted, I don't want to take up too much time. Yesterday's video was about 20 minutes. I want to keep this one kind of short, sweet. So to watch what's happening here, go up to watch. And I will say in the newer versions, like version 30, you don't have to do that anymore. It's kind of, I think it's 30 or 31, that they actually give you the availability to see the structure text at real time. You don't have to do the watch anymore. So we'll hit the increase button. It's going to increase, and see, it increased to a certain point, right? It increased to 10, and then it's not going to increase anymore because we have limits on the system. And the same thing should be said about the 0. So if it tries to go below 0, it's going to automatically make the speed command 0, right? Let me drag this back. And just to kind of watch that again, we're going to push the button for speed increase, right? It's going to speed increase to 10, and then we want to push the decrease button. So to kind of illustrate this a little bit more, what I can do is I can throw in like a timer. Just a quick little one-shot timer in here. So we don't have to keep toggling bits and stuff of that nature. And I'll put this as 1 second. Well, if I put it in there right, it would have helped. Okay. So basically what we want to say is if, for instance, the speed increase happens, so we'll just show the increase. So let's jump over here, grab our increase button. So you see it's indexing by that. And all it's doing is pushing every 1 second. It's pushing that button. And to kind of illustrate this a little bit more, let's take these numbers a little bit higher. Let's take it to 50. And then we'll put 50. Okay, so we'll take that number up a little bit more so you can kind of see it. So it's just going to keep indexing, and that's based upon this timer hitting it. And then we can also do the decrease. So let's do let's do the decrease button as well. And now when this happens, you should see it going down. Right, so you should see the speed going down. Actually, the increase is held high. So you should see the increase or the decrease going. The decrease is indexing, so it should index every 1 second. It's going to index down. So you can have that as well. You can have limitations in here, or maybe like a one shot or something of that nature, if you wanted it just to decrease a little bit or small increments. But the most important part is what I was trying to highlight in the previous video. So if by chance, okay, so up here we wrote the fact that if the button is pressed, then we want to take the speed reference and then +1. If the decrease is pressed, we want to take the speed reference and -1. Then down here is what we wrote today, right? So this is exactly what's about to happen right now. It's going to put a limitation on it. It's going to put a limiting factor so we cannot run the drive or anything, or run the speed command of what we're doing any higher or any less than what we specify in the limitations we're doing. So what we're saying is basically if the speed reference is less than 0, we want to take the speed reference and push a 0 into it. Similar to what we did with the first scan, right? That's kind of what we want to do, is that we want to put a limitation on there. So say if a button gets hung or the operator tells it to run faster than it's supposed to, it can only go or slower in this case. Then we want to limit the fact that it can't go any, we don't want to obviously run backwards, right? And that if you're running a VFD, you're going to run backwards. If you're running a full system off the system command, you're going to possibly cause damage. So you want to have some limiting factors in here, right? So this will do the low factor, right? The low limit. And this will take the speed reference and say if it's greater or equal to 50, then we want to take the speed reference and push 50 into it. So we're setting a high limit on this one. So in the instance of what we're trying to do right here for an example, we're trying to show speed references, whether you use this for a drive, whether you use this for a system, or you use this for just a emulation, whatever you want to use it for. We're using the speed reference and basically like a Boolean push button, right? So speed reference is a dent in our instance, and the push buttons are Booleans, so they're basically bits, right? If they're pressed, then it's going to index and do this function. So again, just want to I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to show you exactly what I wanted to show you in the last video, but had it had not run so long, I would have did that. But obviously giving a better detail in what you're doing and better explanation of what you're doing kind of gives it helps build talent a lot more, I think. So I don't feel like rushing through the video should be something that I should do. I think that it should be addressing exactly what we're trying to implement and trying to show, so that it adds value to everybody that's watching these videos. I'm not making these videos just to, I don't know, even whatever people might think. I don't know. Making these trying to keep up with technology, trying to help people that are trying to learn. I know when I first started, it was very hard for me to get training. So, here I am. I think like 13, 14 years later, I'm trying to give a little bit back. I mean, I started on PLC 5, so this was a great instance, and there's a lot of people with great talent out there, and I've been pretty fortunate to work around them. So I just want to kind of spread as much as I can to help out. And again, if there's anything that you would like to see, or that you have a question about, or anything of that nature, feel free to just leave them in the comments below, and I'll be glad to address those and try to help out. I'll go ahead and make a video on it. You can email me. I did a couple Skypes with people, so that'll help people out as far as what we're trying to do here. So again, thank you for your time. We're right about the 15-minute mark, And hopefully this helped you out, gave you some visuality to what we're trying to accomplish on the if, then, and else using speed control. And thank you, and I'll be having some more videos coming out soon.